The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to another Soccer to the Max. It's been almost a month since we've done a show. It's not intentional, it just happens. But I am now employed since then, so that's good. I rejoin the normalcy of that Rachael and Erik go through all the time. And there are plenty of things for us to talk about here. We got a SheBelieves Cup preview that starts on Thursday. We've got some sad news involving one Jordan Morris, who basically just came back from a serious injury and then has to go right back on the injured list again. We will have, we definitely know that CCL has started. We meant to have a show last week. Stuff happens. So since the second legs are still going on, we're going to do our first SheBelieves Cup post show on Thursday after the Thursday games. And we'll talk about CCL then. There's also more news on the US World Cup 2026 bid going on, and also news on MLS Live not returning because that ESPN streaming service is going to basically take it. And let's see what happens with it. We don't know the total specifics, but it seems like it's just going to be the same thing, but on that service. But thankfully, I am not here by myself. As always, Mr. Erik Watkins.
I don't think you can call what I go through on a day-to-day level normal entirely. And B, only 60 days until the Jacksonville Armada season opener.
And also here, the lovely Rachael McKriger.
There is nothing normal about being a student at California University of Pennsylvania. Go Vulcans.
I love it when we can have a discussion about the opening stuff happening here. But, you know, guys, it felt like it's a long time coming. It always felt like it was going to be a long road to hoe for the NASL when it comes to filing a lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation. And now they have a new president. Congratulations to Carlos Cordero. He now has to prove that he's going to bring in some change. I guess this is old, but we should probably talk about it. I know we haven't really seen him do anything yet, but he's supposed to sort of be in the middle of Kathy Carter and the people that wanted nothing happening to the Erik Winaldas and rest of them that wanted, and Kyle Martino's that wanted a lot of change. Are you kind of okay with this now that it's been almost a month, or does it still bother you?
It still bugs me a little bit because I get that the first month you're kind of feeling your way into things, but I don't want a month to turn into 3 months, to turn into 6 months, to turn into a year, and nothing's happening. I would like to at least see some changes kind of be in their infancy.
Oh. I think we lost Erik.
Wait, I'm here? Right here?
Well, you went completely silent for 10 seconds.
That was odd.
Yeah. It's like a cloud came and silenced you.
You see? The soccer gods are paying attention. They do not want the viewer naughty to infiltrate this podcast. Damn it, it's going to happen anyway.
What were you saying?
I was saying it bugs me to a small extent. I would like to see at least some changes kind of be in their infancy. A month turns into 3 months, turns into 6 months, turns into a year, and nothing happens. And believe me, the kind of things that I can do in a month, something can change within a month.
Yeah, I mean, things can change, but it depends on what Carlos Cordero exactly wants to do. We're not going to see the radical things people wanted, like promotion, relegation, and all that stuff. But he seems to be wanting to push things from a youth soccer side and that kind of thing.
Which is good.
Yeah, it is good. You need to have change somewhere. Somewhere needs to happen. It needs to be changing. And I think youth soccer changing might help in the long run to have other things change. Rachael, do you have any thoughts or anything?
I really, it surprised me by how much he won. I think we all kind of knew in the back of our minds, even though, I endorsed Kyle Martino, you endorsed Erik Winalda. I think we all kind of knew in the back of our minds that, there wasn't going to be this drastic change, but I'm still just really surprised by how much he won.
Yeah, it was a pretty large margin. I think what happened is after it became clear that the guys that wanted change couldn't come together to form a united front, and they all had to still be out there being separate. The people that were going to go for them, once Cordero started becoming the front runner, they wanted to say they voted for a winner, and everybody just went with Cordero. So sometimes, you just don't want to be that person on the losing end when it comes to the way they do this voting, which is weird in its own right. But it is what it is, and we got to deal with this for the next 4 years. Hopefully something changes. But as I mentioned, things are going to change for the NASL, as they will not have a season at all. They were already not going to play when other soccer leagues were going to play in the United States, as they had to cancel that and switch to a fall-spring calendar. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit basically affirmed the district court's decision and said, no, you're not getting an injunction. And the teams that were left, which weren't many of them, at this point, because you'd already had the Cosmos, the Armada, and Miami already fielding teams in the NPSL. You had California United FC going to the UPSL. 1904 FC was going to USL. The San Francisco Deltas, who are the champions, and FC Edmonton folded. And they also lost North Carolina FC and Indy 11 to USL. So they had, 3 teams that were possibly going to play in the actual NASL, even if it got an injunction. That was already going to be sketchy as it was. And now the NASL gets a year to think about what it's going to do. But Erik, is a longtime soccer aficionado that remembers the days of the elder NASL, is this disappointing to you? Is this kind of like you dug your own grave? I mean, what do you...
The days of the original NASL, if you're going back to the early 80s, that was disappointing. And some of the powers that be tried to warn, hey, mistakes are being made. Fast forward to this iteration, and you said it perfect. The powers that be for this league dug their own grave. I think for the first couple of years it was very admirable, but they cared about having the status, not really having a business model to where the status could speak for itself. And the fact that more and more teams started looking at this and saying, hey, this isn't stable, this isn't going to work, this is the Titanic, I'm going to hop off now while there's still lifeboats available. More and more you saw owners do that, and the fewer and fewer teams that stayed committed, you knew this was going to be the beginning of the end. And I'm going to tell you right now, the NASL says they're taking this year off and they're going to try to scramble and do something for 2019, but I personally am not holding my breath.
Rachael, do you think NASL comes back at all? Do you think this is the end?
I think it's going to be hard to come back with the amount of teams that are gone. Because if you think about it, USL has Division II status. So those 3 teams that you mentioned that are in the USL now, they're not going to want to go back to the NASL. And honestly, with losing FC Edmonton and San Francisco or Sacramento, I think that hurts more than they realize. Nobody really paid much attention to FC Edmonton because they were at the bottom of the table last year, but San Francisco was, I keep saying San Francisco, Sacramento was pretty prominent. I don't think they understand how much losing those 5 in total clubs to either USL or folding really meant to the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. Like, you lose half your league right there. You lose your champions. Even Miami, who was the other, with the owner that had the most money along with Camiso, basically said, look, even I got to get off this ship, Rocco. You're kind of fighting this battle by yourself, man. And I don't blame him. The team's got to play. You got to play these players. You don't want to lose your investment. And I think it's smart that they finally just said, okay, we're just going to have to abandon this. There was no way they could play unsanctioned. I don't think at all. And I mean, even when the thing was too, that whole league was built around, okay, we're the Cosmos. The Cosmos are going to bring people in, and they'll watch all the teams. And that's not necessarily truth when you can barely, I mean, it's hard enough just to get people to go to MLS games. Mm-hmm. And USL does fine. And you've got the USL in front of you as well. I mean, it was always going to be hard being third banana. I don't blame them at all for trying to do that thing where they were trying to remove the division sanctions and all that. But I feel like that was just going to be empty as well. Because it's not like people are just going to forget what MLS is.
Exactly.
Just because you took the sanctions off.
I mean, MLS, everybody remembers for the big teams. The Metro Stars were now the Red Bulls. Your DC United. Now your wave of expansion teams everywhere from Minnesota to Orlando. And then you've got the older franchises out west. Your San Jose, your LA. These are names and clubs of people that's been in people's minds for 20 years at minimum. Some of these teams, 40 years. And then the USL, the history of teams like the Richmond Kickers, or the Riverhounds, or the Railhawks, or the Virginia Beach Mariners. That's where I saw some of my first games between Seattle and Vancouver. Well established, and again, years and years of history. For the NASL to even try to get to that, they would have had to challenge and bring back some of those old teams, like the T-Men, or the Atlanta Chiefs, or Kansas City, or the Tampa Bay Rowdies. You just have, even if you had brought back the Washington Diplomats, fine, but building a league
How ironic would that be at this point?
Oh, yeah, I mean, come on now. Hey, but at least they would have someone who would be willing to play at RFK. But before I go into that rant, I will say this. Building that team around your one historic name in the Cosmos, and you're really not even having some of your older ambassadors who played for the original Cosmos, yes, Pele's a stretch, but hey, Beckenbauer's not doing too much. Canalia, Carlos Alberto, Shep Messing, you couldn't have any of these real big faces out there to try to help and maybe draw some of those teams to have your brand? No. You were doomed from the start.
Yeah, they certainly were, and now what's left of it's going to be playing in different leagues. I always thought it was just ego as well of why not just merge with the USL and be in a better league?
Mm-hmm.
But
and even then, that would have helped some of the weaker franchises. I mean, I even have to say this about my Armada. Those first couple years and those first few games, times were great. Playing downtown, drawing 10,000 people. Now, they had no choice but to go to a league like the NPSL and only play 12 games because you're out of the way. It's the stadium's a little bit harder to get to. Still a great stadium. But now you're struggling to draw 4,000. So it's like, what choices do you really have?
Don't have many at all at that point. So moving on from the NASL's tragic, or maybe not so tragic end, it was just almost like putting them out of their misery at that point. Rachael, speaking of miserable, you got to be miserable for your man Jordan Morris coming back from a injury that was devastating, kept them out of the playoffs pretty much last year, and then you don't even get to start the season. In the first CCL game of the year, you're playing on turf, and yikes, torn ACL.
Yikes isn't even how to describe it. I don't think Jordan Morris can really catch a break, and it stings because he's such a good talent, and he really helped out last year with Seattle's run to the championship game. And I honestly don't know if people really understand that. I think this puts a lot more pressure on Clint Dempsey. And he's been a guy who has been coming in as a substitute for both the U.S. national team and the Seattle Sounders. But now that Jordan Morris is out, who's going to replace him? Dempsey's the best fit for the job.
Yeah, certainly. You'll have to rely on a guy that's another year older. And, I mean, look, he still proved last year he still could do great things. But, you know, you were really hoping on and putting a lot on Jordan Morris to have that season where he gets to carry the team. And it's just unfortunate that he doesn't even get to start the season at all.
There's a lot of pressure now on Christian Roldan and Nicholas Laredo as well, too. I think they now have to step up and be that presence of leading the team.
What do you think, Erik? I mean, how big of a blow is this for Seattle?
It's going to be huge because with Clint Dempsey, you know the time is winding down. How many times can he go through this 30, 35 game grind of an MLS season? How many more does he have left in the tank? Whereas with Jordan Morris, yes, you could create different partnerships. Yes, you could kind of tweak your style, but you know when healthy, emphasis on when healthy, you have that consistency, you have those younger, fresher legs going up top and creating magic. Now, again, you don't. Everything's shot really before it started. And really, does this now put Seattle potentially in a transfer situation looking for someone? Who are they going to call up to where they can try to ease the pressure and just have another body as another striker up top? I'm not going to say that this is a spiral yet, and I'm not going to say everything is shot yet, especially with what Seattle's known to do the first half of the season. But the West is still the West, and it's quirky and in some cases tough as hell. So this, not a big blow, well, somewhat of a big blow initially. They can't afford to let the snowball.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, gotta make it work if you're Seattle. But, you know, the good thing for them is that they already dealt with his loss last season, right? So it's not like they haven't dealt with this before. they know what they have to do. It's just, and now you get a whole season in practice of it. So perhaps this helps get some of these players more time and makes the team better in the process. And when he comes back, you got even a fresh, great player to be able to bring back in. And since we're talking about MLS, just a reminder that the season does start for MLS this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So on Thursday's show, I think what we might do is do a show that's just the women's national team breakdown, and then do a separate show where we're going to do sort of a, maybe not in-depth, but just a sort of overview, preview of the MLS season, do some predictions and all that kind of stuff to get that out there, and then start enjoying Saturday and Sunday that whole MLS experience again. And we will have a new way to experience it, not right away, but it does help because there's no longer MLS Live. MLS Live will be brought into ESPN Plus that launches sometime in the summer. It will cost $5 a month. Instead of paying the $80 a year that you pay for MLS Live, you now just get to pay $5 a month. And you get all the other stuff that's on ESPN Plus, basically all the stuff that was on ESPN 3, plus more. And there's obviously, local ways you can watch your team at this point as well, but ESPN Plus will let you, get that. And right now, I think, while ESPN Plus is not available, all the games are free on MLSsoccer.com until ESPN Plus shows up. So we don't have to pay any kind of package before then or whatever. You just get to watch the games for free. That would have been on MLS Live. Still have to watch. You still have to have your ESPN, ESPN2, Fox Soccer, or not Fox Soccer, FS1, all that to watch the national games. But this is pardon the pun, but this is a plus, right? For fans, maybe you don't have to pay $80 a year. You can just subscribe to this thing that ESPN already has and get it that way.
I have two questions. One, if you already have an existing subscription, like say with my cable package, would I still be subject to the $5 a month? Or
you already have a subscription with what?
With like ESPN3, Watch ESPN, all of that. It's all rolled in.
No, ESPN Plus is separate. It's a separate thing. You still need your cable to watch. If you want to watch ESPN or ESPN2 or Deportes or whatever through ESPN Plus, you have to have the cable subscription because it makes you sign in just like you would on Watch ESPN. Right. But ESPN Plus is just like a $5 add-on. Basically, you're paying for ESPN3 now, but it's adding stuff like MLS Live to it. And there's going to be other sports subscriptions that get added to it as well. So to try to make your $5 worth it.
This leads me to question number 2. On top of MLS Live, say hypothetically I find myself up at, say, 1, 2 o'clock on a Friday night. I look at my phone. Hey, Australian rules. Hey, my Bulldogs are playing. For the love of God, would I be able to use ESPN Plus to watch them?
That I don't know. ESPN Plus would have to carry that, right? If they decide to carry it, I mean, they're probably going to try to grab any kind of sport they possibly can to draw people's attention. So.
ESPN Plus, I implore you in the name of everything that is holy, get that league, for the love of God. Please.
I mean, they already have college soccer, and they have, the English Championship, and some League One and League Two, if I'm not mistaken. So, and Carabao Cup.
That means you can follow AFC Wimbledon. Hashtag Wimbledon humbly.
I don't think they have the entire, they have the whole championship, but they don't have the whole other ones. I think it's some games or whatever. And so, I think right now for soccer, you got a lot. Once you're adding MLS in here, and this is, I think, certainly worth it. The only thing I have a problem with is that the ESPN streaming, the streaming part of ESPN, 3 has not always been great. It buffers a lot and has some problems. So hopefully they take that money that they're now charging people and invest that into having a better, system. Because MLS Live was pretty flawless for the most part.
Mm-hmm. And I can't even believe I'm saying this, but Go 90 has improved by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, Go 90 has certainly improved. I watched some of the CCLs from last week, and it was pretty good. But all right, I think that does it for us talking about men's. So, one last thing before we move on to talking about women's soccer, because they have a big cup coming up here. The Gold Cup is possibly going through some changes as well, because in 2019 it is officially going into 16 teams, guys. And of course, they will make this official on March 7th in Miami Beach, not too far from me, when they make the big announcement for the CONCACAF Nations League starting. And they're also considering hosting the tournament for the first time in Caribbean nations, which is kind of cool. You get to see other countries that perhaps you only hear about or hear bad things about. Now you get to, I guess, witness that for yourself outside of like World Cup qualifying and whatnot. What do you guys think about this, moving the Gold Cup around like Copa America and also adding 4 more teams? What do you think, Rachel?
I think it'll be interesting to watch all these other teams kind of get a feel for it. Because I hate to bring up the awful, awful day that was when the United States lost to Trinidad and Tobago to lose out on their World Cup. Oh, God, it hurts to say. But I don't think many people were educated all that well on the guys from Trinidad and Tobago. Only really on the guys who played in MLS from there. So I think it'll be interesting to actually be able to watch them at a different time.
What do you think, Erik?
And to think, during the Gold Cup, it would be closer to the 30th anniversary of that fateful day back in 1989 that I've warned everybody about. But alas, not my point this time. I personally think that this is a good move. Rather than just the whole U.S. barnstorming tour, which had its positives, you're going to now have even more inclusion of a lot of these fan bases from the smaller and intermediate Caribbean nations because they may not have to travel as much. Not to mention, with what Copa America is doing, also adding teams and having a 16-team tournament in 2019 as well, you're going to want to do this to try to balance yourself from a television standpoint, our viewing audience that's going to focus on the Gold Cup versus those that are going to focus on Copa America. And for those who are actually going to be in the stands at the matches, this is going to make this even more of a breeze. So I really approve.
Yeah, and you were saying something about Copa America might bring up another Centenario at some point?
What they want to do for the 2019 tournament, they're going to expand it to 16 teams. Ideally, they want all 10 CONMEBOL teams, 2 from North America, US, Mexico, 2 from Europe, possibly Portugal, Spain, something of that ilk, and 2 teams from Asia, maybe a Japan, a China, South Korea, what have you.
Japan's been there plenty of times.
Mm-hmm. So that's their plan A, and they do have plan B as far as other invitees. Plus, what they're going to do after the 19 tournament, they're going to switch it to where it's held in even years, like the Euros, like the World Cup, etc., So after the 2019 Copa America, you're not going to have the following one until 2024. So this is going to be real big for the winner because they get to hold on to the title an extra year.
That's crazy, though. Like, now, talk about what you're doing that year. You've got the Euros the same year now as Copa America. Like, are they going to at least try to get out of each other's way and let people enjoy both tournaments? Because,
not to mention, you've got Copa America, the Euros, and the Olympics.
Yeah, and the Olympics.
Oh, by the way.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, and considering it's how the 2024 games are going to be in Paris, woo!
That's going to be just so just smushed together. Talk about they said the summer of soccer, I think last year or the year before that. Man, this is going to be summer of soccer that year, certainly.
Oh yeah, and with what they're trying to plan as far as making the Libertadores a one-off final, on top of all of that, South America is like, hey, you think things are nuts now? Wait until you see what we're gonna do.
And well, just since we're in South America, gotta give kind regards to one Neymar, who had an awful injury and is now going to be out 6 to 8 weeks.
Ooh.
So that's going to hurt for PSG, especially with the big Champions League tie going on right now with Real Madrid and everything. Not looking good for those guys, but time for, you put out all this big money for other signings. Time for them to step up at this point.
The Real Madrid PSG match, they added it up. There were $1 billion worth of transfers on the pitch for that first leg. Neymar, all I'm going to ask is this. If you're listening, I hope this finds a way to get to you. You rest up. You focus on healing so you can come back. And if by chance you happen to find yourself on a boat during this recovery time, can I come with you this time? Just be there, be kind of hovering in the background.
Yeah, I think we would all wish that moment there, Erik, but we'll see how that goes for one Neymar. We have a couple of NWSL things to talk about before we get to the actual SheBelieves Cup here. Number one, the NWSL regular season. It starts March 24th. They're going to play all the way till September 22nd is when the championship game takes place. All the teams will play each other 3 times. There's only 9 teams due to the Breakers' demise in January. Each team will have a bye every weekend, very much like an MLS. You're going to have that same problem with there being 23 teams. Rachael, I know you're excited for NWSL to start. You got the Lifetime game on again this year. We talked about Go 90 getting better, so seems like this is the year for NWSL to finally make that big footprint and get people watching. You also got 3 more U.S. Women's National Team players getting federation contracts. Goalkeeper Jane Campbell, Abby Dahlkemper, and Taylor Smith all are on the USWNT payroll, along with Crystal Dunn because she's coming back. But you do have Sydney Leroux, Ali Krieger, and Megan Klingenberg all losing those contracts. So...
Oh, and that just frustrates the other hell out of me, especially Klingenberg. I don't understand, even for all 3, what Jill Ellis has against these 3 players and bringing them back into the program. Ali Krieger deserves 100 caps. It's so frustrating. I understand that you can't keep them all, But at the same time, I don't think Sydney Leroux. I think it's deserved that Sydney Leroux doesn't really get that same contract. I think her spot has really been taken and replaced by Crystal Dunn for all the right reasons. Christian Press as well. But I don't know what Krieger and Klingenberg did to get them put on the bad list.
Yeah, it seems like with Krieger too, it's like at least let her get her 100 caps, and if you don't want to call her up again, just don't. But
sigh.
Yeah, it's weird, just weird. So, do you think that this is understandable that you've lost a team and that's gonna weigh heavy? I think for the first part of the season, but what do you think about this year being big? You've got a full year again of the lifetime deal. Everybody understands what Go 90 is instead of like it kind of being a new thing last year. You've got the Utah Royals coming and being new and having their new roster. A lot of the rosters got better. You got new coaches. Seems like there's a lot of intriguing things for this season.
There is, and the fun thing too about Boston is they can come back. They can come back and field a team at any time. And if things get better, maybe that'll happen. But either way, this NWSL season, with all the improvements, Go 90, the lifetime games, Utah Royals playing in an MLS youth stadium as well, I think it's going to open up a lot of doors to a lot of these other teams or cities or programs or whatever wanting to get involved in the NWSL. I think I read something the other day that was like all these MLS expansion teams need to have a program in place for potential NWSL expansion.
That would be interesting if they do. If MLS goes full WNBA and starts just wanting to grab teams and put them in NWSL too, and you have this thing starts blowing up from 9 teams to 20 rather quickly or something like that, that'd be pretty amazing. Would there be enough players and would there be enough fandom to go around for that many teams or even to get to like 15?
I think it's 14, 16 would be a good number.
16 would be the best number, and that's your peak really for any size league, but particularly in soccer. For things like scheduling, dates, talent, whatnot, I really don't think you should push beyond that.
All right, Rachel, so what do you think about this SheBelieves Cup? You've got March 1st, 4th, and 7th for the U.S. They're playing Germany first, then France, then England. They're playing in Columbus first, so, all you Columbus fans, go out there and show support, stick at the pre-court some more, and go to Orlando with, go to Harrison, go into Red Bull Arena and do that as well in Orlando, where the Pride and City play. You gotta go out there and show support for them too. And Erik, are you going to go to the U.S.-Mexico game in Jacksonville in April?
I'm lining up to get myself some tickets.
Well, see, there you go. We might have a full report when it comes to that game. But what do you think about this tournament, Rachel? I mean, you got 3 of the toughest teams in the world against the U.S. again.
And with that said, I don't think the United States is going to win it this year. I don't know if they have the capability to win it. They didn't win it last year. Can't really see them winning it again this year. The main frustration I have with the roster is the fact that Ashley Hatch was named to the preliminary 26-player roster, and then she was taken off of the 23-player roster. And I don't understand why, especially because she had a heck of a year in NWSL, and she had an even better off-season in Australia. I believe she was with Melbourne, and I know she was with, I think it was Melbourne, but I know whatever team won the title, that's the team she was on. So I don't understand how Jill Ellis can look at all of that and just completely ignore it. I don't know what goes through that woman's head. I think most of the roster looks pretty good, though. It's pretty standard for the most part. I'm still annoyed with seeing Sofia Huerta on a defenders list, but can't win them all. Becky Sauerbrun's missing still because of injury, but they gained Taylor Smith back, who is coming back from injury. Morgan Bryan's also coming back. It always amazes me with players in Europe how quickly they leave the United States to go to Europe, and then there's so many international tournaments, I think, in the women's game more than the men's game, and then they have to go right back to the United States. But Angie Sullivan, she's going to be there. She was just the number 1 overall draft pick. Julie Ertz was the best player for the team last year, won the U.S. Soccer Player of the Year. Savannah McCaskill, who is a new member of Sky Blue FC, she's on the roster. I don't like her spot on the roster being there over Ashley Hatch, because Savannah McCaskill hasn't even played a minute in NWSL yet. And Ashley Hatch has already proven herself to do well in the NWSL. So I just think that's a little bit ignorant on Jill Ellis's part to just ignore her for Savannah McCaskill.
Yeah, you also got Tierna Davidson also making her debut on the defensive side too.
Over Ali Krieger.
Yep, over Ali Krieger. So I will say I think there's something to be said for taking young players to tournaments and letting them learn the setup and learn what it's like to be with a team and everything else. I think that might be what she's thinking here. You could make the case that, look, the U.S. lost last year. Let's bring the veterans. Let's get the win. That's what matters. At the end of the day, these are glorified exhibitions. Let's not forget that. But we're all going to make a big deal if the U.S. loses again, right? So it's like one of those, like, what do you do? To be fair, what they had, the talent that they have here should be enough. But these teams from the other countries keep getting better. Phil Neville gets to make his debut as the England coach, and he had to already make some changes due to some injuries. But that team is still strong. Germany's dropped off of it, but you can kind of never count them out. And France, let's not forget where that World Cup is going to be at, and they're going to be wanting to show everything.
Well, speaking of that World Cup, that's why people are going to react if the United States loses, because World Cup qualifying, I mean, if you think about it, I personally don't think they're going to win this tournament. I don't think they're going to win the Tournament of Nations in August. I think that's going to be Australia written all over it again, who are actually my favorites to win the World Cup in 2019. But then right after those two tournaments, you go into your CONCACAF play against Costa Rica, Mexico, Canada, all these other teams, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. And Canada, obviously, is Canada. That's going to be a great match. Mexico's on the up and up. And Costa Rica's an underdog team. They made the World Cup in 2015 for the first time, and I think they can do it again in 2019 for the second time.
Oh, yeah, they certainly can. That's going to be interesting to see who comes out with CONCACAF. It's like such a refresher from the men where you kind of already know who gets out of there. The U.S. being that big shock last year is a total anomaly compared to what happens with the women, where it could be different each time. So, yeah, this does weigh heavy going into that. You got your World Cup qualifying. This is that tournament that people are going to be looking at. And these are teams that you need to beat because you're probably playing them in the World Cup anyway. So, gonna be a fun tournament that starts on Thursday. Doubleheader on Thursday. I think it's doubleheader every one of these, right? So yeah, we'll try to be here that night, especially Thursday, to give you a post game on that one, and we'll try to do the same for the other two nights. And course, also get ready for MLS season starting. The NWSL has a little bit left. It's till the end of March, but I'm just pretty hyped to be really focusing in on. I know we had CCO and everything, but I think for me, what I'm really hyped about is this tournament and then MLS starting. And then when NWSL starts, it'll be like American soccer is finally back and we can really be delving deep into that. Unless one of you guys have anything else you want to comment about?
I just want to give a quick shout out to Aaron Johansson over in Germany because he has been killing it lately with Werder Bremen. And he was injured for such a long time, had the longest rehab possible, and then he just came back with a bang and has been doing so well for them ever since. And it's great to see, and I really hope he gets rewarded for that the next time the U.S. men's national team plays.
Well said. I hope so too. You don't have any reason not to call him up. It's not like you have anything big going on right now. Reward him for going out there and scoring goals with a big German team. Anything else you want to say, Erik? Or are we bringing this thing to a close?
The CONCACAF Champions Cup is rearing its ugly head as far as what it is. Maybe this payoff for MLS teams will help. Who knows as we march on to the quarterfinals. And, yeah, brief moment of sticker shock for tickets with the U.S.-Mexico, the women's national friendly that's going to be here. Then I went to a more reputable site, and all is well with the world. Boy, was I scared.
Yeah, certainly the Champions League, Champions Cup, going to be a very interesting thing once you get down to playing the Mexican teams. And can the MLS teams finally prevail and finally get to winning that championship? Going to be an interesting one for sure. FC Dallas and Colorado already making MLS look bad. So that's not
I'm going to
not
already place my bets on a firm no. And CONCACAF, stop CONCACAFing and call it what it is. It's a cup.
Yeah, Toronto might be the only team that helps in that regard, and then people are still going to be upset because it's a Canadian team. So, there'll be those. There'll be those with the U.S. World Cup bid coming into question.
I can counteract with that argument. You put American cheese on your sandwiches, not Canadian cheese.
Amen.
Amen. Did we talk about the World Cup thing? I know I mentioned at the beginning, but I don't think we talked about the World Cup thing. So, 2026 World Cup bid, again, we talked about this before, but it's even more in jeopardy now, apparently, than it was even months ago when we talked about it. Still has something to do with Donald Trump deciding that he wants to name shithole countries and just being a terrible leader when it comes to foreign policy and almost everything else. But we're not here to talk politics. Even though FIFA and everybody else sure is, because now South America is still a bit angry about the whole FIFA scandal and how that really messed things up for South American countries and having the leadership that they did have at one point be shattered in that having to change leaders and all that stuff. So they may go against the U.S., Mexico, and Canada bid. You also have Asia that's fully trying to support Africa, and of course Africa is going to support Morocco because they're an African country. You still got Oceania, parts of Europe, and what's the other? Because North America can't vote because obviously their whole North America is in the process. I'm forgetting it. Am I forgetting a continent?
No, North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, Oceania. Those are six.
So it would be the bigger parts of Europe that have, I guess, bigger votes, and Oceania would be on the U.S.'s side. It's possible it could become really, really tight. with, if the full force of Asia gets behind Morocco, if the full force of Africa gets behind Morocco, and South America gets behind Morocco, that could be the whole 104 votes right there. But you also have logistical things like, that's the first 48-team World Cup. That's a lot of stadiums you got to have for that. A lot of teams that are coming in. A lot of space.
Because even realistically, you're doing 16 groups of 3.
Right.
You're going to have at minimum 16 stadia. Realistically, 1 per group because of how match days and things work out.
Right.
Or you have, with the different match days with different groups.
And you're still going to want to have, probably 1 or 2 that are special as well, that are separate, that are, for the opening game and the final. And
exactly. Yeah. So you're talking anywhere from 12 to 16 at minimum to maybe as many as 20. And look at even what's going on with Qatar. Slightly different climate, but you're still small country, out kind of tucked away. They're having tremendous logistical issues, even for a 32-team tournament. Multiply that to what you're going to have to put together for 48. I don't think Morocco, size or space-wise, I'm not sure they can handle it.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll try to make it happen, obviously. They would not be getting this if they couldn't make it happen in one way or another. I would imagine that they have given the plans out, and they're that tight for something. It can't just be hate for the U.S., even though that's what it seems like it is being perpetrated out there, that there is a lot of angst against the U.S. Do people want to do nice things for the U.S. right now? And look, Erik brought up the case, we were talking about this off the air. Donald Trump will not be in office when the 2026 World Cup takes place. However, they cannot foresee 8 years in the future. They have to go by what's going on right now. And they don't know what kind of president you would assume it would be the total antithesis of Donald Trump, considering all the things that have happened since he has taken office. But you don't know, right? You just don't know, and it's hard for them to predict and say, okay, we're going to have another Obama in here, so we don't have to worry about what the U.S. are going to be doing.
They're not counting on another Obama. They're counting on a hyper-intelligent orb from somewhere in the intermediate future. And we don't have that technology right now.
Right. It's just, I don't blame FIFA for feeling this way. Perhaps feeling like, is America safe for foreigners? Considering you got the travel ban going on, and you do have a lot of Middle Eastern teams that you're going to have Middle Eastern teams that qualify. There's nothing you can do about that. What are you going to do about that when it comes down to that time? Do you try to promote more of Mexico and Canada being involved? Do you try to give Mexico and Canada more games to try to, see hey, we're being more united than we were. Let's start throwing things back our way. I just don't. This would be even more shocking to me than the U.S. not making the World Cup this year. Is U.S. not getting that bid, because so many logistical things. Is the hate for the U.S. that bad that you don't want to do it? I mean, Sepp Blatter just endorsed Morocco. There's got to be something negative that comes out of that when Sepp Blatter is endorsing you. But the least I have to talk about that, man, the better. But just, right? It would truly be shocking the U.S. doesn't get that bid. But, you also got Sunil Gulati behind that, and he also doesn't have the greatest of vibes going on right now either.
All I'm going to say is this. If Morocco does wind up getting that bid, A, we're screwed. B, something is just fundamentally wrong on multiple levels. No offense to Morocco. This is not me continuing upgrading the kind of people and the number of people I want to piss off. I'm going to stop at the state of Minnesota. Morocco is a beautiful country, but I mean, come on. Even you think this is a bit of a long shot.
Rachael, would you be just as shocked, or?
If they don't get that bid, oh my gosh, that would just, I don't even know what that would do for Carlos Cordero. Oh my goodness, he would be in a pile of crap before the crap show even started.
Well, we don't know if he's going to be president by then, but
they'll select the bid during his 4-year tenure.
I just wonder how much there is that he can do, especially because he's not the head of that, right? It's still Galati that is the one that's going to those meetings and everything else. Talk about totally tarnishing any kind of rep that Galati had left if you don't get this, right? Like, everything will now be negative when you think about Sano Galati.
Ugh. Why is he... Oh, God, this is bad. This is bad. I'm smelling bad. This is not good.
Yeah, not good at all. So, all right, guys. I think that's going to do it for us here on this show. I thought we were going to be going throughout this thing. There was a lot to talk about, and hopefully you enjoyed it if you did. You know, there are many ways to get back at us. Each one of us has a Twitter, at WTimSean, at SquidSportsHead, at Rachael McKriger. You can connect with each one of us directly, or you can just hit up at WTim Network. That's the website, podcast network. I'm usually tweeting from there as well. And you can let us know what you think about the show. If you have any thoughts on anything we talked about, you can hit us up on that as well. And yeah, just there's a lot coming on just this week. MLS starting up, SheBelieves Cup. So much to look forward to. This is that week, guys. We'll be back on Thursday night with post game and MLS Cup preview, or not MLS Cup, MLS season preview as well. I guess we will talk about MLS Cup in there. But yeah, make sure you hit subscribe. Soccer to the Max. Hope you like our new logo. Thank you to a friend of a friend for making that for us. So pretty. And yeah, well, we'll see you on Thursday. Later, everybody.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.